Dr. Sunmay Park stared through her microscope at 3 a.m. in her laboratory at the Seoul Institute of Biological Defense. Something was different about the bacteria samples today. The tiny organisms were moving in ways she had never seen before. She rubbed her tired eyes and looked again. The bacteria were definitely forming new patterns. They were grouping together like soldiers getting ready for battle. In her 15 years of studying microscopic life, she had never seen anything like this. "This can't be right," she muttered, reaching for her phone to call her research partner, Dr. Taewon Lee. At that exact moment, 20 kilometers above Earth, Captain Jae-ho Kim sat alert in his Korean Space Force monitoring station. Red lights were flashing across his control panel. "Sir, we have multiple objects entering Earth's atmosphere," reported his junior officer. "They're too small to be meteors, but they're moving too fast to be space debris." Jae-ho leaned forward in his chair. He had tracked thousands of objects in his career: satellites, space junk, actual meteors. But these were different. They were moving with purpose, almost like they were being guided. "How many objects are we tracking?" he asked. "Over 200, sir. They're spreading out across the entire Korean peninsula." Back in her lab, Sunmay was recording the bizarre behavior of her bacteria samples when her phone rang. It was her colleague from the Meteorite Research Department. "Dr. Park, you need to see this," said the excited voice on the other end. "We've got fresh samples from those meteorites that landed last week. The chemical composition. It's like nothing we've ever seen on Earth." Sunmay felt a chill run down her spine. First the strange bacterial behavior, and now this. She looked back at her microscope, where the bacteria were still moving in their unusual formation. In space, Jae-ho's team tracked the mysterious objects as they entered the atmosphere. Instead of burning up like normal meteors, they seemed to slow down and disperse like a fine mist across the sky. "Sir," called out another officer, "we're getting similar reports from Japan, China, and Russia. This is happening all over Asia." Jae-ho's years of training told him this was no natural phenomenon. He picked up the secure line to contact military command. In her lab, Sunmay was comparing her current bacterial samples with ones from last week. The difference was stunning. The old samples showed normal bacterial behavior, random movement, standard reproduction rates. But the new samples, they were organizing themselves, communicating, preparing. Her phone rang again. This time, it was Dr. Lee. "Sunmay, turn on the news," Taewon said urgently. "Something's happening in the sky." She rushed to her office and switched on the television. Emergency broadcasts were showing strange lights descending across Asian skies. The newscaster was trying to sound calm, but fear crept into his voice as he reported similar sightings worldwide. Sunmay looked back at her lab, then at the TV, and suddenly understood. Earth's smallest life forms had sensed something coming, something that wasn't from our world, and they were getting ready to fight. She quickly began documenting everything she observed. If her suspicions were correct, humanity was about to witness something extraordinary. Earth's microscopic defenders preparing for war. In his monitoring station, Jae-ho received the call he had been dreading. Military command was declaring a state of high alert. Whatever these objects were, they weren't friendly. What no one knew, not Sunmay, not Jae-ho, not even the highest military commanders, was that Earth's first line of defense wasn't going to be missiles, jets, or soldiers. It would be the invisible army that had evolved alongside us for billions of years. The bacteria were ready, and they were about to show the galaxy why Earth's life forms were not to be underestimated. The invasion had begun, but Earth's tiniest warriors were already one step ahead. 3 days after the strange lights appeared in the sky, the first reports of illness began. But something was different about these cases. People would feel sick for a few hours, then suddenly recover completely. The alien invaders, known as the Orcs, watched in confusion as their carefully planned biological attack failed. In her laboratory, Dr. Sunmay Park worked without rest, studying blood samples from these recovered patients. Under her microscope, she saw an amazing sight. Earth's bacteria were not just fighting the alien organisms, they were winning. "Look at this," she said to Dr. Taiwan Li, who had been working with her for the past 72 hours. "Our bacteria are actually eating the alien pathogens." Taiwan adjusted his glasses and peered through the microscope. The alien organisms, which glowed with a faint purple color, were being surrounded and destroyed by normal human gut bacteria. "It's like they've done this before," he said, amazed. "But that's impossible." Above Earth's atmosphere, the Vorax ships hovered in confusion. Their main biological weapon, which had conquered 12 other worlds, was failing. High Commander Nexus demanded answers from his science team. "How is this possible?" he asked his chief scientist. "Their world is primitive. They haven't even achieved interstellar travel." The chief scientist had no answer. Their scans showed that Earth was populated by billions of microscopic life forms, all working together in ways they had never seen before. Back on Earth, Sun Mi made another discovery. She rushed to the secure phone to call Captain Ji-Ho Kim at the Space Force Command Center. "Captain, you need to see this data," she said urgently. "The bacteria in our bodies, they're not just defending us. They're getting stronger. They're learning." Ji-Ho looked at the reports coming in from around the world. The pattern was the same everywhere. People would get sick, then recover faster each time, as if Earth's bacteria were getting better at fighting the alien attack. In his ship, High Commander Nexus received more bad news. The organic parts of their ships, which used living tissue for navigation and life support, were starting to fail. Something was attacking them, but their sensors couldn't detect what it was. "Sir," reported his officer, "we're detecting microscopic Earth organisms in our ship's systems. They're eating our technology." Sun Mi and her team worked to understand what was happening. In a secure lab room, they watched as common bacteria broke down pieces of alien technology that had been recovered from fallen debris. "Our bacteria didn't just evolve alongside us," Sun Mi explained to the military officials who had gathered to see her findings. "They evolved alongside every other life form on Earth. They've been fighting and adapting for billions of years. They know how to deal with invaders." Taiwan added to her explanation. "Earth's bacteria are the most experienced warriors in our solar system. They've survived every mass extinction, every climate change, every challenge our planet has faced. The aliens didn't know what they were getting into." In orbit, more Vorax ships reported system failures. Their biological technology, which they had thought was superior to anything they might encounter, was being defeated by creatures too small to see. The silent invasion had failed, but this was just the beginning. Earth's smallest defenders had revealed themselves, and they were about to teach the galaxy a lesson about underestimating life's ability to adapt. As Sun Mi recorded her observations that night, she smiled. Humanity had always looked to the stars for threats, building bigger weapons and stronger shields. But their real protection had been with them all along, quietly evolving and preparing for this moment. High Commander Nexus stood in his command center, watching his mighty fleet fall apart. The Vorax had conquered dozens of worlds across 3 galaxies, but they had never faced anything like this. Their ship's organic systems were failing one by one, eaten away by Earth's invisible defenders. "Tell me how these primitive microbes are defeating us," he demanded of his science council. The council members looked at each other nervously. None of them had answers that would please their commander. Their most advanced scanning equipment could barely keep up with how quickly Earth's bacteria were evolving and adapting. Meanwhile on Earth, in a small research lab at the Seoul Institute, young researcher Hae-Nul Choi made an exciting discovery. She had been studying bacterial samples for 3 days straight when she noticed something unusual. "Dr. Park, Dr. Lee," she called out, her voice filled with excitement. "The bacteria aren't just fighting back. They're sharing information with each other." Sun Mi and Taiwan rushed to Hae-Nul's workstation. On her computer screen, they watched as different species of bacteria exchanged genetic material, passing on successful strategies for fighting the alien invaders. It's like they're teaching each other, Newell explained, pointing to the data. When one type of bacteria figures out how to beat the alien organisms, it shares that knowledge with other bacteria. In space, another Vorax ship lost power as its biological computers failed. High Commander Nexus received the report with growing anger and fear. His species had always believed that they were the masters of biological warfare. Now they were being defeated by microscopic life forms they had dismissed as primitive. Our ships are being eaten alive, his chief engineer reported. These Earth bacteria, they're not just attacking us. They're using our own biological technology as food to multiply and grow stronger. Back on Earth, Captain Jae-ho Kim arrived at the Research Institute with urgent news. The Space Force's orbital sensors had detected the Vorax ship's changing position. They were pulling back, moving away from Earth's atmosphere. They're retreating. Ta-1 asked in disbelief. Not retreating. Sun-Mei corrected him. They're regrouping. They've realized their biological weapons won't work. They'll try something else. Newell continued analyzing the bacterial behavior. She found that Earth's microbes weren't just defending. They were actively hunting down anything alien. Billions of years of evolution had prepared them for this moment, making them the perfect guardians against extraterrestrial threats. In his ship, now moved to a safer distance, High Commander Nexus studied the reports about Earth's defensive capabilities. His species had always looked down on worlds that hadn't achieved space travel, considering them easy targets. But Earth was different. Its smallest life forms had turned out to be its strongest warriors. We did not understand what we were attacking, he admitted to his council. This planet has been preparing for invasion since life first began there. Every bacterial cell is a warrior, trained by billions of years of constant warfare against other microbes. Sun-Mei and her team worked through the night, documenting everything they learned. Earth's bacteria were revealing new abilities every hour. They could break down alien materials, resist unknown toxins, and adapt to any threat the Vorax sent their way. We always thought we needed to protect our bacteria from alien life, Sun-Mei said to her colleagues as they watched the latest samples. But maybe they've been protecting us all along. The Vorax had wanted to understand their enemy. Now they were learning a hard lesson. On Earth, even the smallest life forms could become the deadliest defenders. Dr. Sun-Mei Park stood before the military council in Seoul, presenting her team's latest findings. The room was filled with generals and scientific advisors, all watching as she explained their breakthrough. We can do more than just defend, she said, pointing to the screen behind her. We can turn Earth's bacteria into weapons against the Vorax ships. Brilliant geneticist Yuna Kang stepped forward to explain their discovery. She had spent the last week studying how Earth's bacteria adapted to fight the alien threat. The bacteria don't just destroy alien materials, Yuna explained. They learn from them. Each time they break down alien technology, they become better at attacking similar materials. Captain Jae-ho Kim listened carefully. After weeks of watching Earth's microscopic defenders fight back, he had learned to trust these scientists. When they said they had a plan, he believed them. How do we deliver these bacteria to their ships? He asked. Sun-Mei smiled. The same way they tried to attack us, through the air. In their labs, the research team worked day and night to prepare their counterattack. They selected the strongest and most adaptable bacteria from their samples. These tiny warriors had already proven they could survive in space and eat through alien technology. Look at this, Yuna said, showing Sun-Mei a video from their latest test. The enhanced bacteria were breaking down a piece of alien metal 10 times faster than before. High in Earth's orbit, the Vorax ships maintained their distance. Their sensors detected unusual activity on the surface, but they couldn't understand what the humans were planning. Their own biological weapons had failed completely. They're up to something, High Commander Nexus told his council. These humans are more clever than we thought. He was right. At the Korean Space Force launch facility, Captain Ji-ho supervised the loading of special containers onto small unmanned rockets. Each container held millions of carefully selected bacteria, ready to attack the Vorax ships. Remember, Sun Mai told the launch team, these bacteria are attracted to the alien biological technology. Once they reach the ships, they'll know exactly what to do. The first launch was scheduled for midnight. As the rockets prepared for takeoff, Sun Mi's team made final checks on their bacterial payload. They had chosen the strongest survivors from the initial alien attack, bacteria that had already proven they could defeat Vorax technology. This is different from their attack on us, Yuna explained to the military observers. Our bacteria have had time to learn. They know the enemy now. The rockets lifted off under the cover of darkness. The Vorax ships detected the launch but didn't see any threat in such small projectiles. This was their second big mistake. When the containers reached their targets, they released clouds of microscopic warriors into space. The bacteria, specially prepared for this mission, immediately began seeking out the organic components of the Vorax ships. First contact confirmed, Ji-ho reported, watching the data from their sensors. The bacteria are attaching to their hulls. In his command ship, High Commander Nexus received alarming reports. Something was eating through their ship's outer layers, moving faster than anything they had seen before. These are not the same organisms we faced earlier, his science officer reported with fear in his voice. They've been modified, enhanced. Sun Mai and her team watched their monitors as the first wave of bacteria began their work. Earth was no longer just defending itself. The counterattack had begun, and humanity's smallest allies were leading the charge. Research assistant Min Ji-song stared at her computer screen in amazement. The data coming in from space showed something extraordinary. Earth's enhanced bacteria weren't just attacking the Vorax ships. They were spreading from vessel to vessel like a galactic plague. Dr. Park, you need to see this, Min Ji called out. The bacteria are using the Vorax's own communication systems to travel between ships. Sun Mai rushed to Min Ji's station. The bacterial attack they had launched was working better than anyone had expected. Their tiny warriors had found ways to move through the biological networks that connected the alien fleet. In his command ship, High Commander Nexus watched in horror as more vessels reported critical failures. Their mighty armada, which had conquered countless worlds, was being destroyed by microscopic enemies they couldn't fight. Shut down all biological systems, he ordered. Switch to mechanical backup systems only. But it was too late. Earth's bacteria had already learned how to break down even the non-living parts of their ships. What had started as a targeted attack was now spreading uncontrollably through the Vorax fleet. At the Korean Space Force Command Center, Captain Jae-ho Kim received report after report of alien ships losing power. How many ships have been affected? He asked his officers. Over 60% of their fleet, sir, came the response. And the number is growing every hour. In the laboratory, Min Ji made another important discovery. The bacteria weren't just destroying the alien ships, they were getting stronger with each victory. Every piece of alien technology they broke down taught them new ways to attack. It's like they're learning from eating the enemy's technology, she explained to Sun Mai. Each generation of bacteria is more effective than the last. The Vorax had never faced anything like this before. Their ship's organic components, which they had always considered their greatest strength, had become their biggest weakness. Earth's bacteria were using these biological systems like highways, spreading from one ship to another. Abandon all damaged vessels, High Commander Nexus commanded. We cannot risk further contamination. But even this order couldn't save them. The bacteria had already adapted to survive in space. They floated between ships like invisible clouds, waiting to attach to any Vorax vessel that came close. Sun Mai and her team worked to understand just how their bacterial weapons had become so effective. They discovered that the bacteria were sharing their new abilities not just with their own kind, but with different species of bacteria as well. They're creating a network, Min Ji explained to the military commanders. Every new thing they learn about fighting the aliens gets passed on to all the other bacteria. Captain Jai-Ho watched from his command center as more alien ships went dark. The Vorax fleet, which had arrived at Earth expecting an easy victory, was now fighting for survival against an enemy they couldn't even see. Their ships are trying to escape, his sensor officer reported, but the bacteria have already infected their engines. In space, the mighty Vorax armada was falling apart piece by piece. Ships that managed to power up their engines found that the bacteria had already eaten through crucial systems. Those that tried to jump to faster-than-light travel discovered their biological computers had been completely destroyed. Earth's tiniest warriors had become the galaxy's most terrifying weapon, and they were just getting started. The quantum biologist Du Hyun-shin joined Sun Mi's team just as their bacterial weapons reached their full power. He brought new insights about how the bacteria were breaking down the alien technology at the atomic level. They're not just eating the ships, Du Hyun explained to the gathered scientists. They're taking apart the alien materials molecule by molecule and using them to make themselves stronger. In orbit, the once mighty Vorax fleet was in chaos. Ship after ship went dark as Earth's microscopic warriors invaded their systems. High Commander Nexus watched helplessly as his forces crumbled. "We must retreat," his second-in-command urged. "We've lost too many ships already." But retreat was no longer possible. The bacteria had spread to every corner of their fleet, disabling engines and navigation systems. The Vorax, who had arrived as invaders, were now trapped. At the Korean Space Force Command Center, Captain Jae-ho Kim received updates from their orbital sensors. "The alien fleet is completely surrounded," he reported to Sun Mi over the secure line. "Your bacteria have created a living barrier in space." Sun Mi and her team had discovered that their bacterial weapons had evolved far beyond their original programming. The tiny organisms had learned to form networks in space, creating vast clouds that could trap and break down any Vorax ship that tried to escape. "Look at how they work together," Du Hyun said, showing the team his latest scans. Different species of bacteria are taking on different roles. Some break down the ship's outer hull, others attack the internal systems. In his failing command ship, High Commander Nexus faced a harsh truth. His species had always believed their biological technology made them superior. Now that same technology was being used against them by life forms they had dismissed as primitive. "Our arrogance has destroyed us," he admitted to his council. "We thought we were the masters of biological warfare, but this planet's smallest creatures have proven us wrong." Back on Earth, Min Ji-song made an exciting discovery in her lab. The bacteria weren't just destroying the alien ships, they were storing information about how the technology worked. Each time they break down a piece of alien tech, she explained to Sun Mi, they keep a record of its structure in their DNA. They're building a library of everything they learn. Du Hyun's quantum sensors revealed even more surprising developments. The bacteria had figured out how to disable the Vorax's weapon systems without destroying them. They were becoming more precise, more strategic. "They're not just weapons anymore," he told the military command. "They're becoming engineers. They can take apart alien technology piece by piece and understand how it works." The Vorax ships hanging in orbit were now completely helpless. Their biological computers, weapons, and engines had all been carefully dismantled by Earth's microscopic defenders. The bacteria had turned the aliens' greatest strength into their greatest weakness. Captain Jae-ho watched the sensor displays as the last Vorax ship lost power. The invasion force that had threatened Earth was now nothing more than a collection of dead metal shells floating in space. "The tables have turned completely," Sun Mi said as she reviewed the final battle reports. "Earth's smallest life forms have become the galaxy's greatest defenders, and they did it by learning from their enemies. The Vorax had come to conquer Earth, but instead they had taught Earth's bacteria how to become even stronger. Humanity's tiniest allies had not just won the war, they had changed the balance of power in the galaxy forever." High Commander Nexus stood alone in his darkened command chamber. His mighty fleet hung powerless in Earth's orbit, defeated by creatures too small to see. After hours of discussion with his remaining advisors, he had made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. "Send the signal," he commanded. "We wish to speak with Earth's leaders." On Earth, the message arrived at the Korean Space Force headquarters. Captain Ji-ho Kim immediately contacted Dr. Sunmi Park and her team at the Research Institute. "The Voraks want to talk," he told her. "They're requesting a diplomatic meeting." Sunmi looked through her microscope at the bacterial samples on her desk. The tiny organisms that had saved Earth were still actively monitoring the disabled alien ships, ready to defend against any new threats. "Tell them we agree," she replied. "But the meeting must happen here on Earth. Our bacteria need to be present to ensure their honesty." The Voraks, once proud conquerors, had no choice but to accept these terms. Their ships were now completely under the control of Earth's microscopic defenders. The bacteria had even learned to operate some of the alien technology, using it to keep the vessels safely contained in orbit. 2 days later, High Commander Nexus descended to Earth in a small shuttle, accompanied by his chief scientist. The bacteria allowed their ship to land, having determined it carried no weapons or threats. The meeting took place in a special chamber at the Seoul Institute. Sunmi, Captain Ji-ho, and several world leaders gathered to meet the aliens who had tried to conquer their planet. "We have come to understand our mistake," High Commander Nexus began, his voice translated by a device that the bacteria had carefully inspected. "We thought biological advancement meant creating new weapons. You showed us it means working in harmony with life itself." Sunmi explained how Earth's bacteria had evolved over billions of years, learning to cooperate and adapt to countless challenges. "Our strength comes from working together with our smallest allies, not trying to control them," she said. The Vorak's chief scientist spoke next, showing genuine interest in Earth's bacterial defenders. "In all our travels, we have never encountered life forms with such remarkable abilities," he admitted. "We would like to learn from you, if you would teach us." Captain Ji-ho watched carefully as the bacteria in the room analyzed the aliens' every move. The microscopic warriors had become so advanced that they could now detect even the slightest sign of deception. "The bacteria say they're telling the truth," Sunmi announced, checking the latest data from their sensors. "They really do want to learn." The meeting marked the beginning of a new chapter in galactic relations. The Voraks, humbled by their defeat, offered to share their knowledge of space travel and alien civilizations. In return, they asked to study Earth's remarkable ecosystem. "We have traveled the galaxy looking for powerful weapons," High Commander Nexus said. "Instead, we found something far more valuable: the understanding that true strength comes from cooperation with all forms of life, no matter how small." As the diplomatic talks continued, Earth's bacterial defenders remained vigilant. They had evolved into something unprecedented: guardians who could protect their planet while also helping to build bridges between different civilizations. 1 year after the Vorak's invasion attempt, Earth had changed in ways no one could have imagined. The Seoul Institute had grown into the Interstellar Microbial Defense Institute, with Hae-Nul Choi serving as its first director. Scientists from around the world came to study the remarkable bacteria that had saved humanity. Dr. Sunmi Park stood at the window of her new laboratory, watching as another alien diplomatic ship landed safely on the Institute's grounds. Earth's bacterial defenders quickly scanned the vessel, checking for any threats before allowing the visitors to disembark. 3 more civilizations have requested meetings this month, Captain Ji-ho Kim reported, now serving as the head of Earth's newly formed Extraterrestrial Relations Department. "They all want to learn about our bacterial defense system." The bacteria themselves had continued to evolve and develop new abilities. They could now communicate with various alien life forms, analyze unknown technologies, and even help repair damaged spacecraft. Their reputation had spread throughout the galaxy, making Earth an important center for biological research. "We've received another message from the Vorak Science Council," Hae-Nul told Sunmi during their morning meeting. "Their attempts to create similar defensive bacteria on their worlds have failed. They're beginning to understand that our bacteria's abilities came from billions of years of natural evolution. In orbit around Earth, the remnants of the Vorax invasion fleet have been transformed into research stations. Teams of human and alien scientists work together, studying how Earth's bacteria had managed to overcome such advanced technology. The bacteria are teaching us things about our own ships that we never knew, admitted one Vorax engineer. They understand the technology better than we do now. Minji Song, who had been promoted to lead researcher, made another breakthrough in understanding the bacteria's capabilities. They're not just defending us anymore, she explained to a group of visiting alien scientists. They're actively improving our technology by applying what they learned from the Vorax ships. Earth's position in the galaxy had changed dramatically. Other civilizations no longer saw humans as primitive or weak. Instead, they recognized Earth as a planet that had developed one of the most effective defense systems in known space. "We were looking for strength in the wrong places," High Commander Nexus said during a galactic peace conference. "While we built bigger ships and more powerful weapons, Earth's true power was in its smallest inhabitants." The bacterial defenders had become Earth's ambassadors to the stars. They could safely explore alien environments, learn from different life forms, and help establish peaceful communications between species. Their ability to analyze and understand alien biology made them invaluable for preventing conflicts before they began. "Our greatest achievement wasn't winning the war," Sun Mai told a class of new students at the Institute. "It was showing the galaxy that true strength comes from working together with all forms of life, no matter how small they might seem." As Earth entered a new era of interstellar relations, its tiniest warriors continued their eternal watch. They had evolved from simple microbes into something extraordinary, guardians of their world and bridges between civilizations. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. On Earth, even the smallest life forms could change the course of history. High above the planet, countless species of bacteria floated peacefully in space, monitoring the stars for any new threats. They were Earth's first and last line of defense, proof that in the vastness of space, size meant nothing compared to the power of adaptation and cooperation.